I got a bone to pick with some of these strength cards. Why are there so many lions? Hi, Sarah here. Welcome back. We're back with another installment of the Top Tarot Trumps times Tarot Memoir series. Yes, this series is still going, slow as it may be. I remember when I first started this series, I had so much energy and excitement and gusto for this. Now videos in this series do take more time as I take more time to process and think about what each of these major arcana mean to me, but I still have a goal of doing all 22 of these major arcana. We're about a third of the way through, so I'm doing pretty good. So in this video, I'm going to share 3 personal examples, personal memoirs, related to the strength archetype, the strength card of the tarot, and 5 of my favorite strength cards across all of my different tarot decks. It was a challenge for me to find 5 strength cards that don't feature lions. As much as I know that the Rider-Waite-Smith has inspired a lot of tarot decks, I also want different imagery. And there are so many decks out there that just have lions, and I just like to see something different. So later on, I'll share 5 of my favorite strength cards that don't have lions in them. All right, let's get to it. So the strength card was something I did not understand for a long time. I kind of felt like, aren't we all just trying to be strong? I don't understand the point of when the strength card comes up in a reading versus when it doesn't come up in a reading. It took me a long time to kind of simmer on this card and figure out what the essence of this is and find examples in my life where the strength card could actually apply. I've seen the strength card renamed to fortitude. I imagine like just staying strong like a fortress, but I still had trouble conceptualizing just what exactly strength means. So after reading some tarot books and again, just letting the idea simmer, I've come to understand this strength card being about what you choose when push comes to shove. When you become stuck in like difficult places or when you are challenged, how do you stick to your values as opposed to following just your instincts or your automatic responses? So some personal examples of strength moment or strength energy in my life here. The first example I've got is going through no-buy periods. First off, I know that not everybody will vibe with like having a no-buy period, but for the people that do, I hope that what I share can also resonate with you. There are some periods of time when I kind of check myself and I realize I've kind of been spending without being too mindful of my purchases. In general, while that can be a fun thing, there is no shame in spending on what makes you happy. Sometimes I find that I am kind of straying from my values. For example, I am buying decks that I didn't do much research on and that I don't feel too excited about, or that I wish I had spent more time with the decks that I have instead of going to buy new decks, or this new purchase ends up being just like a band-aid because I feel badly about myself or because I crave some excitement, when in reality I could have found that kind of outlet somewhere else without buying a new thing. It can be very easy to get swept up in new things, especially if we have the means to buy those new things, and when like online shopping and shopping in person just makes it very accessible to just buy new things. It's not really a conscious choice all the time to just buy all those things, to plan out all those purchases. Oftentimes going on like shopping sprees or spending sprees can just be a subconscious thing. I also want to be clear here. No buying and collecting and buying, they don't have to have moral judgments or value judgments based around them. It really is just what works for you in this moment, what works for you in this situation, what works for you in this year. There are some periods of my life when I don't have to be so meticulous about every dollar that I'm spending because I am able to afford just whatever I want. And there are other periods of my life or of the year when I find that I do have to be a bit more conscious about what I'm spending money on. So when I go on no-buy periods, I remind myself that the focus of this no-buy period, let's say it's a month that I'm trying not to spend frivolously or spend just on hobbies or extraneous things, those periods are not to deprive myself, it's more just to reconnect with my value. The same way that some people might go on like meditation retreats, like it's just a nice way to get out of your current environment, get out of your current behavioral patterns, and reconnect to what feels most important to you. So when I go on no-buy periods, it can be a challenge because my squirrel brain wants to be excited about all these new things and I just want to buy without thinking about things too deeply. But it really is like a strength moment, a strength period for me because I'm reconnecting to values of intentionality, of using what I have. Patience. Really, patience is like the biggest thing that can be really hard for people with compulsive shopping habits. So yeah, no buy time periods, anything that you're doing to challenge yourself for the time being, that is a moment or an act of strength. The next strength example I'll mention is in the past 1 or 2 years, I've been witnessing my friend going through her eczema/allergy journey. So one of my good friends, we've been friends for like 5 years, And I've gotten closer with her in the past 2 years specifically because she moved closer to my area, so we've been able to physically hang out more. In the past year, I've gotten to know more about what it's like to live with eczema, and also just witnessed her as she's gone through this journey of finding out what she's allergic to. I'm learning that their food allergies can cause like really bad skin flare-ups, and it's really uncomfortable, and it can put them out of commission for like days at a time. In the past, as I was growing up, I wasn't really one to gravitate to people or relationships that required any sort of work. I never really liked being challenged in my friendships. That was usually a way or a guarantee that I would start slow fading or my feelings would change for someone else. I basically overall just avoided anything or anyone that in my mind I thought was like an inconvenience. But now, like watching my friend go through this journey, go through her self-discoveries and her trials and errors, I'm recognizing that the true friendships, the friendships that I want to have and that I want to maintain, they do require work. They might involve a little bit of inconvenience, but are they inconveniences that I'm happy to take on? 100%. I also want to be mindful that I'm not framing this as like disability, like inspiration, like me as an able person watching a disabled person struggle, like I'm finding inspiration from that. It's more like I'm watching myself remember that friendships are not just about convenience. The true friendships are built on actual acts of service and acts of reciprocation. The third strength example, tarot memoir I'll mention here, is me going through therapy this year and discovering who I am without my masks. If you haven't heard of the term masking before, imagine if I were to go on stage and perform in a play. I am no longer Sarah who has anxieties and hopes and dreams and all the complexities underneath my surface. I am just the performer on stage who is here to deliver a service of giving a good performance to the audience. So masking in everyday situations can be like putting on a mask to perform a persona, I guess, in that situation or in that environment. I realized this year through therapy that I have just been masking really, really hard my entire life. I have always had people-pleasing tendencies. I've always wanted to be what other people wanted of me so that there would be less friction, so that I could make other people happy, so that I didn't have to focus on like how badly I thought of myself. And I thought I was done people-pleasing or trying to live up to expectations in my like early or mid-20s. I was doing self-growth work before and I thought I was like done. But now I'm like 29, I'm almost 30, and I still have people-pleasing tendencies and I still have masks. I was kind of in denial about being like neurodivergent in a way. I just kept thinking or hoping that if I just kept trying harder, if I just kept suppressing like my natural tendencies, then I could be neurotypical, then I could appear normal, I could be accepted, I could be palatable. But the issue with suppressing, with masking for so long is that I didn't know who I was underneath the masks. I didn't know what my natural tendencies are because I was already suppressing everything subconscious about myself to try to appear like a normal person. So the reason why I mentioned this for this strength archetype, strength concept, is that reconnecting with who I am underneath the masks, without the masks, if no one expected anything of me at all, if no one had any judgments of what was good or bad, it's not bad to be disorganized, it's not good to be organized. Like if there were no value judgments or expectations at all in my mind, who am I? What are my natural tendencies? So this whole therapy journey, neuropsych testing journey, it's been a whole strength journey for me, man. I hope I've explained that enough. If I don't, I'm sure I'll include voiceover or respond in the comments or anything like that. That being said, we'll move on to the top tarot trumps. So I'm going to share 5 of my favorite strength cards across all my decks, none of which have lions in them. To be clear, this is my opinion and this is my personal preference, and all artists and deck creators are free to do whatever they want because it's their deck, it's their gift to the world. I just want to see cards that are different from the norm. There's nothing wrong with the Rider-Waite-Smith lion imagery with the woman holding open a lion's jaw. I understand the symbolism, I understand the metaphor, learning to love the beast inside, but I don't always relate to the beast inside. So many tarot decks feature lions. I just want variety. For people who don't really connect to lions, are there other options? Well, I found options. Okay, so here is the first strength card I'll mention from the Spacious Tarot. The Spacious Tarot features a cactus. The cactus is in the desert. It also looks very green compared to the brown, like, not wasteland, the sand land, the desert around it, and the kind of gloomy looking clouds. So the bright colors of the cactus and the yellow flower here, to me, it symbolizes just finding some light, finding some boldness, even in what feels like a drab world or drab circumstance. Since cacti reserve water for a really long time and very gradually, I don't know, consume water. I don't know plants that well. It does remind me of how strength is akin to patience. Another nature-ish strength card I'll mention is from the Mystical Cats Tarot. Here we see a cat that is looking so serene, little loafy cat. Oh my God, so adorable. Little loafy cat with some birds around it. The birds are chilling right next to the cat or even right on the cat. So in the guidebook here for the Mystical Cats Tarot, this sentence stands out to me most. Even the most powerful impulse of our nature to hunt our prey can be subdued by the strength of our character. Nothing is more ferocious than a cat, and when we choose, nothing is more gentle. I like that line of when we choose, nothing is more gentle. Strength to me is about remembering and connecting to our values instead of only following our automatic responses or our instincts. And even though this is fictional, I don't know how many real cats would just be still if birds were sitting on them and hanging around them. I do really like the analogy here. I might have the instinct to want to lash out, to catch and kill in a way, or I can try to practice serenity, practice calmness, practice patience, practice maybe observing the moment. Just choose mindfulness. Just choose something related to my values instead of following any instincts of self-preservation or instincts or desires to, I don't know, cause harm. Speaking of causing harm, another strength card I really like is from the Somnia Tarot. This card is very similar to the typical imagery of a woman holding open a lion's jaw, but this one is not holding open a lion's jaw. They're holding open a bear trap jaw. It's different. It's not a lion. Honestly, seeing all of the teeth on this trap is kind of scary. I can only imagine how painful it would be to get stuck in it. And just like I was just saying, this imagery reminds me of how I would want to connect to my own values and what I want to choose to do moving forward instead of reverting to primal tendencies or again, instincts of self-preservation. If I were to follow my bear trap instincts, I might just want to close off from other people, feeling feisty, I want to lash out at people because I'm not happy or because I'm not feeling well. Or I might want to run away from things or avoid things that are challenging because I don't want to actually face them. So strength here, with this person holding open the bear trap, just like the woman holding open the lion's jaw, it is a reminder to be gentle with others, with myself, with the situation. It also just takes a lot of time. I'm seeing that holding this trap open is not a fast, quick, sudden, one and done movement. It just takes a lot of time, a lot of patience, and a lot of perseverance to keep it open for this long. The next strength card I'll mention is from the Little Avatar Tarot. This is a fan art deck. It is inspired by the series Avatar: The Last Airbender, which aired on Nickelodeon many, many years ago. It's fantastic, highly worth a watch. I've tried not to use fandom decks or pop culture decks in these Major Arcana videos because I want the card to be able to speak for itself, especially for people who don't have knowledge of that show. But it's been hard for me to find strength cards without lions, and this one does really speak to me. In the show, Aang, the character in this card, he basically needs to learn firebending, which is basically fire kung fu. All of the firebenders have been associated with causing harm and causing destruction. So for Aang, who comes from a Buddhist background or a pacifist background, who doesn't want to hurt other people, he was feeling conflicted about learning firebending, where he could possibly hurt others. So he goes on this journey and he reconnects with the source of firebending, or the original firebenders, who are these dragons. He basically learns to do the dragon dance and learns to do the same moves that these dragons are doing, and basically reconnects with the source of firebending. And the original firebenders weren't people causing harm. They were just living their way of life and being who they were. I really resonate with these values of reconnecting with who you want to be, not who people have conditioned you to be or what people expect of you. What is your character? What choices do you want to make based on your true character? The last strength card I'll mention is from the Flow Tarot. The key word here says the Quiet Power. The Flow Tarot is a deck that is all themed around water. Water in its various shapes and stages, and also the effects of water. This cavern has been carved out from rainwater and, rivers, seas for such a long time that it's become like a whole cavern. It's so fascinating to me that it's become this cavern with all of its different shapes and ledges instead of just being completely eroded away. I also pulled out the guidebook here. So first, the creator, Rachel, she describes the cavern here. Only the flow of water running over these cavern walls could carve such wave-like shapes out of stone. Thousands of years of water splashing into a crack in the ground has turned it into a canyon, and it's still being carved today every time it rains. The smallest crevices to the deepest gorges are formed exactly the same way, by water and time. She mentions these two keywords here, persistence and resiliency. And then at the end of this excerpt here, there are questions that you can ask yourself or that you can journal about. The Strength card asks you to look at the ways you are powerful. Don't focus on the short term. Look at the long term, like the water shaping this cavern here over a very long period of time. Find ways to work with your environment and circumstances. Every drop of energy you apply is moving you closer to your goals. Where can you draw on patience and perspective to overcome obstacles? What things are already changing in small ways that can have a big outcome? What is your own quiet power? Where does it shine through? So the sentence specifically of find ways to work with your environment and circumstances is a great reminder or great revelation for me, because in my time of going through therapy and neuropsych testing, I was realizing that I was suppressing a lot of my natural tendencies to be disorganized, to have my attention scattered like everywhere. The cure to that, the solution to that is not to keep suppressing who I naturally am. It's to find ways to work with the way that my brain works and the way to work with my environment to figure out how we can all make it work all together. So rather than suppressing my tendencies, work with it instead. Yeah, so I really like these other keywords with strength, and I'm definitely going to write them down in my notebook for later. Persistence, resiliency, patience, perspective.
And real quick, I want to share a couple of really resonant cards before we go. These are from the Sacred Incantations deck, which is about rituals of trans wisdom for every season. One card that's been sitting on my little chair, my little stand here recently, has been Staying Tender is So Brave. And I feel that perfectly describes the Strength card. Choosing to stick with our values and choosing to stay tender can be a really brave act. It's not an act of weakness at all. And another card that came up for me is this one. May we stay tender, even as we breathe fire. Even as the lion in us wants to roar and to be fierce, may we still stay tender throughout the whole process.
All right, those were my favorite strength cards across all of my tarot decks and some personal examples related to strength. I'd love to hear from you as well. Do you have a bone to pick about the lion imagery, or does it not bother you? How does strength apply to your life? How do you understand strength? Have you renamed it in any ways to make it make more sense for you? I'd love to hear what you think. All right, well, that's all I got for today. Thanks for watching. Bye.